Hi, my name is Thomas Dowling. I'm the Head of Department of Computing. In Letterkenny IT, one of the things that we really emphasise is the students' ability to get real-world skills, so they work in environments which are almost identical to what they experience in industry. So today, I'm standing in room 2294, which is our new cloud infrastructure room. Now, you can only see a small little bit of it, but there's a range of banks of server cabinets. You can see one of them open behind me. There's another bank behind me. And this is identical to what a student will encounter when they graduate from here and go work in a company such as Amazon or Google. The server facilities in Amazon and Google are bigger, but they're identical to what we teach on. And this is not a production system, this is the students' teaching system. There are very, very few colleges, universities in Ireland which offer this type of facility to students. And as I say, it is a reflection of our commitment to making sure that the students have the types of skills that they need to go out and work in industry and be able to walk in job ready on day one. In the Department of Computing, we have a range of level 7 and level 8 courses. Now, in truth, they're almost the same thing because typically a level 8 course is 4 years for an honours degree, a level 7 course is 3 years for an ordinary degree, but all of them have an additional 1-year honours degree. So you're talking about a 4-year commitment, and most students do the 4 years because they want the honours degree. That's sort of the blue chip qualification if you want to travel anywhere around the world. We have a range of sort of general courses like the BSc in Computing or the BSc Honours in Applied Computing, and we have specialist courses like the BSc in Games or the BSc in Cybersecurity. But in reality, what we like to concentrate on is core skills. So if you look at the details of the modules that the courses cover on the web or in the prospectus, you'll notice that about 2/3 of the modules are common across the courses, and then about 1/3 of the modules are specialist depending on the course. And this reflects the ethos that whereas we give you specialist skills relevant to industry depending on the course title, we also prepare you for a lifelong career in computing. And we cover all of the general topics: programming, databases, data communications, because the beautiful thing about computing is that the range of careers is incredibly varied. You just don't know what you'll end up doing in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. You will probably change career many times because you want to, because it's interesting, because there are new technologies coming along. And we want to make sure that you have a good, broad base of modules, of skills to prepare you for all of those different careers. The reason that people often ask, is, why would I do computing? And the most typical answer that you tend to give is, well, there's a lot of jobs in it. And there really are a lot of jobs. And typically at any given time, there's about 5,000 to 6,000 vacancies in IT companies, which they can't fill. There's huge demand for people. And it's really, really difficult for employers to get good people with good computing skills. And they hire a lot of people from abroad simply for the reason that you cannot get enough Irish graduates, and you never can get enough Irish graduates. I came out of college in 1991, and it's safe to say that every year that since then, I have seen companies looking for people, and even in recessions, they just cannot get enough people. Computing is an industry that tends to be recession-proof. In good times, IT companies invest in IT, and in bad times they invest in IT to cut their costs. So it's a great, great industry to work in. Why else would you study computing? Well, it's not just the fact that there are a lot of really good job prospects. There's also a really, really wide range of different types of jobs. People have a very narrow kind of idea about what it is to work in computing. They imagine themselves sitting in an office. They imagine themselves being sort of the geeky guy. They maybe think about the Big Bang TV series. In reality, computing is nothing like that. It's a very social kind of profession, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But it's a very easy job, kind of qualification to travel on. If you want to travel abroad to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Middle East, most of those companies offer skill-based work visas, and computing, nurse, medical doctor, kind of the big three in terms of being able to get those high-skilled work visas. Not that you have to travel abroad, but you can if you want to. There's plenty of jobs in Ireland. So then I mentioned the Big Bang, and I mentioned that idea of kind of the geeky person sitting in a corner on their own. But in fact, computer systems are big and they're complex, and they require teams of people to build them. And you cannot build a computer system, a modern computer system, on your own. You need people working closely together. So you tend to have very social type of environments. You know, people go to the pub or go out for coffee on Friday afternoons. They work in kind of open plan offices. There's lots of breakout spaces for having coffee, for having conversations. And that's the type of professional environment, really, that a lot of people find so rewarding and so interesting. And I say the absolute opposite of the idea that people have about working in computing. Another question I'm often asked is, what is it that makes you good at computing? And the first thing I would say is, it's not about maths. Once upon a time, most people working in computing were basically scientists using computers as calculators, so they tended to have to be good at maths. None of that's true anymore. These days, the tools we use to work with computers means that it's much easier to work with them. So the programming languages, for example, are no longer expressed in a mathematical way. And most computing graduates today are not any stronger at maths than a business studies graduate or even, you know, an English language graduate. They're just people who've done maths for the Leaving Cert. They've maybe done 1 or 2 modules in college, and that's kind of it for the most part. However, you do need certain skills that are somewhat associated with maths. You do need to be good at problem solving. You need to be good at thinking about how things work. You need to be a little bit persistent. If something doesn't work out, you need to go back and maybe start to think about another way to solve the problem. And in that sense, computing is a curiously artistic type of profession. There is rarely 2 identical solutions to problems. You know, every single time you have to sit down and you have to think about the problem. You have to think about sort of the constituent parts of the problem. You have to break it down. And then you have to start to form a solution for yourself. And it is a creative process, which is something that people very, very rarely think about. It's also enormously varied. As I say, you rarely kind of are lucky enough to get the same problem coming up on a regular basis. So the types of problems that you run into are different, and you know, depending on the technologies, they may vary enormously. One of our graduates who's a lecturer here now was the chief technologist for the British Antarctic expedition. Other people have worked in web design. They've gone into financial payment systems, big data, artificial intelligence. It's absolutely hugely varied profession. So, you know, people ask me, well, what types of jobs might I do? And really the list is almost endless. If you have a look on monster.ie, for example, which is a jobs website, you will see literally thousands of different types of jobs, job titles. There's programmers, artificial intelligence engineers, people working in virtual reality systems, big data, software testers, project management managers, systems designers. It's really just an endless list. And it's one of the great things about computing. No matter what your interests are, you will find a niche. It mightn't be your first job, it mightn't be your second job. It takes a little bit of time to find out what you're good at, what you're interested in. But computing is one of those professions where there is so much space in terms of the types of careers that it offers that you will find your thing. Again, where might you work? Well, the list is almost endless. Virtually every major computing company in the world has its European headquarters in Ireland. There's a lot of reasons for that. You hear about corporation tax and stuff like that. Other reasons, the Irish working day overlaps the American working day. And the further west you are in Europe, the more your working day overlaps the American working day. So that means that American companies are always attracted to Ireland because it's very easy to coordinate work between Ireland and America because people are at work at the same time. About half the day overlaps. But there's other reasons. I mean, Americans just love the attitude and skill sets of Irish graduates. We speak like them, we think like them, we have a very similar type of work culture, although our holidays are a bit longer, happily. And they just find it very, very easy to relate to Irish employees. So they absolutely love coming here. There's also, of course, loads of smaller companies. There's 8over8 in Derry. CETA have operations in Derry, in Letterkenny, Primerica, Optum. I mean, they employ thousands of people. In London, there's the big famous employers that you all know about, Google and Yahoo and Facebook and Twitter, have huge operations in Ireland as well. They employ pretty close to 100,000 people directly, probably as many again, at least, indirectly. And the chances are you probably know somebody who's working in that sector. So one of the things about working in computing that's really kind of quite important is that you are a scarce resource, to put it like that, to a company. It's not easy to replace you. The more skilled you become, the harder it is to replace you. Therefore, companies like to treat you well. They like to create nice environments. They like to pay you well. There's lots of good perks. They're very convivial, very social types of environments because they want you to stay. The last thing they want you to do is to take your 5 years of experience building their systems and go off and work for a competitor. So they have a huge motivation to treat you well. And it's very difficult to overestimate just how important that is in terms of getting up in the morning and looking forward to going to work. So what types of programs do we offer? Well, we offer a range of level 7 and level 8 degrees. They're almost kind of the same thing in a sense. The level 8 degree is typically 4 years for an honours degree. Level 7 degree is typically 3 years for an ordinary degree, but most of our graduates would tend to go on and do the 1-year add-on to get their honours degree, because the honours degree is sort of the blue chip qualification. So one way or another, you're probably looking at doing a sort of 4 years to get your honours degree, and that's what 90% of the students would do. There is one exception, the new BSc in Computer Science, which is a 3-year honours degree for people who are coming in with a significant background in computing, which is primarily the Leaving Cert Computer Science or the equivalent in terms of FETAC or the A-levels in Northern Ireland or the UK. But most courses are kind of 3 years plus 1 or 4 years. There's a level 7 BSc in computing, which is a sort of a very general type of computing course. It's like a Swiss Army knife of computing. It prepares you for the very, very wide range of different types of careers in computing. There's the computer games development, because, you know, if you have an interest in something, it's always easier to kind of motivate yourself, and motivation is the key to doing better. So the games degree is targeted on kind of the niche industry of computer games development, which is quite strong and really growing rapidly over the last 10 years and continuing to grow, moving away from kind of PC games more to kind of mobile games and stuff like that. A lot of small indie type companies, 10, 20 people developing really creative, interesting types of games for the iPhones and the Androids and all that sort of thing, which I'm sure you know far more about than I do. And then there's the computer security and digital forensics. And there is just always such a demand for those graduates. Industry just cannot get enough security graduates, because as we connect to the internet, the need for security is absolutely paramount. There's huge amounts of legislation around data protection and things like that, and they really desperately need security graduates to protect their systems. If we produced 10 times more security graduates, they would all get great jobs. At the honours degree, there's applied computing, which is a bit like the BSc. It's kind of a Swiss Army knife course. A lot of programming on that, and industry is always looking for programmers. I know I keep saying every course industry is looking for loads of whatever they are, but that's the reality. There just are not enough computing graduates. And then coming up in 2022, there's the Healthcare Innovation and Technology, which is a new course which is designed to develop IT systems for healthcare. So everything from kind of, blood pressure monitors in your watch to more efficient management of hospitals. They're really, really exciting, interesting technologies around sensors and predictive healthcare and trying to build systems that will allow the user to know they're sick maybe before their symptoms become really serious and they get really sick, because early intervention, of course, is a key thing with healthcare. So IT and healthcare are really rapidly growing area with huge and really exciting opportunities, and lots of companies in Ireland working in that space. We have talked a lot about kind of the CAO programs, but for a lot of people, when they are out working, they're thinking about, well, I would like to kind of upskill. What's the next thing? I've been working in this for a few years and I'd really like to go and work on something else. We have a huge range of postgraduate programs. We have one of the largest range of postgraduate programs in computing in any IoT or university in Ireland. And we cover a whole range of things from development operations, DevOps, cybersecurity, cloud technology, digital healthcare. We offer research options on those, and we also have a significant and rapidly expanding pure research program for research masters and research PhDs. And we have quite a number of people doing their doctorates, and those are people from different countries around the world, from Ireland. Some of them are full-time working here on kind of bursaries. Some of them are part-time working in local industry and working with us and developing research programs for their companies. So we offer absolutely everything and every opportunity at every level to our students. And that's why we're such a huge department. We have over 1,000 computing students in the department, and we just go from strength to strength because we offer excellent courses in an excellent environment with excellent lecturers and excellent facilities. Thank you very much. And as I say, feel free to contact me with the information on the first slide.